Steve, good to see you. Welcome to QVC. Is this your first time on QVC?
No, not with this product, yes, but the other products we do in the range we've been
Fantastic.
before.
It's the first time I've seen this product. Yeah. I was fascinated having a chat with you not long ago. I was just telling the viewers there. Think about all the things that you've got that sit outside. I mean, I was thinking about it. I'm thinking I had terrible trouble with corrosion on my kiddie's swing, for example. That's right. And you said, well, Dale, with this, you can stop metal from rusting. That's the layman's term for what, oxidisation or whatever you call it.
Any metal.
And this will do that. And £11.93. You think, my goodness, think how many metallic things there are. Cars, boats. I mean, and we're not talking about, it could be something like a boat, which is, say, glass fibre for most part, but it's got metal components on it. We can protect those. We can. How do we do that?
Well, it protects by working on two levels, in fact. It's a very special chemical. It's been used in industry for some while. It's the first time this has been available to QVC. Yeah. And it works purely by putting on a chemical barrier which works on the molecular level.
Right.
And I don't know if we can see
this
here.
Got a little illustration there, yes.
I will just explain how this works. We'll keep it nice and simple. This is the science bit. Yeah. But what happens with this chemical is it contains a chemical that puts on a film that prevents the moisture and the oxygen from attacking the metal, which obviously is required for corrosion, but it also works with a vapor phase inhibitor, and these chemicals bond to the metal, so it works on two levels. So there it is, that bonding to the metal seems to be the secret here. Let's take a look at a film clip that we've got, and again, Steve, if you'd like to talk us through this as we look at it here. Okay, well, as you can see, I mean, Super Shield can be used on virtually all parts around the car, particularly windscreen wiper motors. It's a perfect example.
Of course, yes.
The spray itself can be applied at any angle. Now, normally with aerosols, you can't spray them upside down. This thing can go at any angle, as you can see, which means you don't have to worry about holding the can upright.
Isn't that where doors go?
That's right. You can get it in anywhere. The spray can be directed, as you say, just a few inches from the floor. You can put it out on a tremendous spray. It'll even go 3 metres. And interestingly enough, once this chemical is cured, even boiling water will not take it off. It's unaffected by extremes of temperature, so it's safe all around the place. Even a blow lamp cannot ignite it. It is perfectly safe.
Amazing.
But once it's there, it can be removed if you wish to. We have another chemical in the range which
that releases the bond.
It can release it, and that is a QVC product as well. It's not on the show tonight, but if you do want to remove it at some stage, you spray it with the antidote and it comes straight off. That product's called Formula X.
Absolutely brilliant.
As you can see, there are two nozzles with the product. Number one is obviously a wide angle nozzle. Now that can apply the chemical as close as 2 or 3 inches away and give you a fan spray. We also, with the jet nozzle, allow it to be sprayed up to 3 metres. It will only give you an 8-inch target. So you can actually direct it into a box section on a trailer or into an awkward place to reach on a boat or in a car. And it's not just cars anyway. I mean, even the barbecue.
They corrode terribly.
They're worth a lot of money. I mean,
Absolutely,
especially the gas ones. They corrode away in the winter. You can't always bring them indoors. And that stuff will completely prevent it from corroding.
You were spraying it over a painted surface there. Will it still bond over a painted surface?
It'll go and it'll stick to virtually anything. It'll adhere to wood or plastic or glass or leather, but it won't harm it.
Steve, I thought I'm going to be a good boy this year because I've been a bad boy many years. I had the last barbecue of the autumn and I thought, right, clean it up before you winterise it. And I stuck the hood over it and everything to keep everything out. Opened it up the other day. I couldn't believe the state of it. And I thought, how has that happened? Because the atmosphere, I suppose, is just damp and everything. Well, and it's in a terrible state again. I wish, what did I bother? You know, but if I'd cleaned it and then applied a coating.
If you clean it off and you apply a coating of Super Shield, it'll work on two levels. First of all, if I could show you on metal here, this has actually been coated with the product. You can see it makes a very slightly golden colour. It will not come off, it will not be abraded off. It never completely hardens, it remains as a gel, which is very important because it means that if a part of this is slightly removed or if it's abraded in some way, it will self-heal back into that position. Well, that brings me on to the question I was going to ask you is, what if mechanics are thinking of applying this and then, you know what it's like, the ratchet slips or the screwdriver. That's right. Is it going to sort of scratch it off effectively? Well, it can be marked, obviously, like anything else, even a paint would do, but it will self-heal back into that area within limitations. You couldn't take off a foot and expect it to come back, but obviously minor abrasions will self-heal. And that's why it's perfectly suitable for things like battery terminals, because they corrode very easily. Absolutely. And once it's on, it's non-conductive. So the main characteristics are it's totally non-conductive, it's safe on electrical components. It's totally non-flammable. I mean, we've shown it with plastic parts. Like I'm thinking in an engine. Absolutely not. Can I spray it quite freely? Well, let me show you how we can use it here. We've got. You're going to make me a cup of tea, isn't it? Well, I'm going to actually show you how it's on top of boiling water. You'll notice there's a ball bearing in here. It's a very thick chemical. Once we've agitated it, it'll spray on. Okay. Now, everybody pretty well knows that a polystyrene cup is one of the most sensitive pieces of plastic you can possibly get. A slightest amount of petrol or kerosene or paraffin or anything will dissolve this stuff instantly. This is so safe it will not affect it, and then once it's been on there for a few seconds it will start to cure, and that is perfectly safe. So even moisture landing on it, even at this stage now, if you're using it in a rainy day, will not affect that surface.
So you spray something on there, and if that were on metal, for example, not polystyrene, how long would it take before it was giving us full protection?
Right, well, it'll give you full protection virtually instantly. I mean, if you've got things like bolts or nuts that you're going to put onto something, especially on exhaust where they get very hot, they corrode very quickly and they actually become almost baked on. Very difficult to remove again afterwards. Now, if you spray the threads, you don't need very much of it. Once that nut is actually applied, you'll find it will actually track through the threads, and that will mean two things. First of all, it keeps the corrosion out. It also means if you want to remove it at some stage, it will actually come off. It won't bond itself through to the metal.
I mean, I think how many times you've been trying to use releasing agents and all sorts of things to get rid of a seized nut for that reason. We said earlier, you said, Dale, I know this is a car care hour, but you said, I said, well, yeah, but you could be in Harry's hour with this, you could be in Richard Jackson's hour with this, and if we had such a thing as a boat care hour, you could be in there.
Well,
because there's so many uses around the house, when I say around the house, I literally mean around the outside of the house, where you're going to be using this product.
Well, one big example, and this is one of our industrial users, this product is actually used by Suzuki.
Suzuki?
Now, they use this on their Grand Prix racing bikes. Now, these racing bikes are worth a lot of money.
Absolutely.
They get transported all around the world in air freight crates. It stops it from corroding, and they use it in lots of applications.
And as you said, you're talking about you know, car care, but what about all the bikes out there? You know, the bikes which are even more susceptible, their metallic parts, to the rain, aren't they?
Well, we've given an indication on the can here of where you can use it. And obviously there's lots of applications, but we've got, for instance, marine engines, motorcycles, tools, all of your garden equipment, that's mowers, hedge trimmers, all those sort of things will corrode.
They'll corrode,
locks, particularly, padlocks, of course, will corrode if they're left outdoors, and they always are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you've got power tools, again, they're safe on electric, so there's no problem with that. All tools around the car, jet skis, even on firearms, and of course on chainsaws and any equipment that's left outdoors. Anywhere where you can't bring it inside and can protect it, this chemical will do the job, because it forms an impenetrable barrier. It will not be affected by salt water, but even on marine engines, underwater, there's no problem with it. So you can spray it virtually anywhere. This is one that's been done for a little while, so you can see it's been cured.
Yes.
And we did boil the kettle.
Just boiled the kettle.
We just boiled the kettle. You've heard it click off.
You can see it's very, very hot.
It's steaming away there. That will not affect the surface.
Look at that.
Okay.
It's still there.
Now, you can imagine...
Because engine temperatures obviously get very high as well.
Well, that's right. And, you know, this is obviously a fairly extreme test, but let's go for it.
He's not going to glaze. He's not going to glaze my creme caramel, is he?
We don't need to do this at home, but this gives you an example of it. Now,
if it's going to catch a light, it's going to do it now, isn't it?
It's going to do it now. I mean, we've got a pretty hot flame there. Now, if that was on engine temperature, if it's on a manifold, or if it's on electrical parts somewhere near a very hot area, it will not flame off. Now, once that chemical has actually been applied and it's cured, you really don't have to worry about it any longer. So the most extremes of temperature, wind, rain, salt water, all the things that make things corrode, this will protect you from. And as you mentioned, the garden swing,
well, yeah, I mean,
they're going to rust.
Exactly, and that's why do you end up chucking most metallic things, or even think about push bikes. You know, why does a push bike? Why do you move on a push bike? Probably because it becomes rusty. You've only got to leave it out in the rain a few times, and you start to see rust build up. So what happens? Does just nothing happen, or do you get a light film of rust on there that you wipe off?
Well, if you've got if you've got a very rusty surface, I mean, we've got bits of machinery that have been rusted up for years. Obviously, we want to try and remove the worst parts first. Once you've removed them, once this chemical comes in contact, it will arrest any rust. It cannot get further. Right, so it will take it off. But to give you some idea of the spray, you can spray it at any angle. Once it's on, it will not run off. It's a fairly viscous chemical, and it will just not run. It will stay where you put it.
I'll just move that out.
Yeah, move that away. We don't need that. The aerosol
we'll give that
there.
To our security guard. There he goes.
There is a logo on there. It actually says that it does at 360 degrees, which means, unlike most chemical aerosols, when you turn it upside down, normally that can would not spray. This will work at any angle. So regardless of where you're turning this can, it will still do the job. Now,
that is important if you're working underneath a car, if you're working underneath a caravan. I mean, think about caravans, because, you know, again, caravans usually winterise, don't you? You stick it in a field over winter, a friendly farmer, or...
Well, you don't bring them indoors, they're too big.
Exactly.
And anything that you have to leave outdoors is susceptible to rust, and some of this stuff's worth an awful lot of money. There's two nozzles supplied with these chemicals, by the way. You get a little holster on the top, which holds the wide-angle nozzle. The jet nozzle is the other one that comes actually supplied on the canister when you get it. And again, you just agitate it very slightly just to make sure that it's mixed. It's a fairly thick chemical. And incidentally, in case you wonder about the size of it, there's 31.7 US ounces, which is 750 ml. It's a lot of chemical in there for the money.
Yeah. I mean, how long's a piece of string? How long's it going to last? Well, what are you using it on, and how often are you going to use it?
You can coat a lot of product with this. It will protect probably in a season a bike, a boat, the whole works.
Yeah. I mean, we can see it there. Yeah, that's the beauty of it. Anywhere that's going to rust, think about that.
And remember that the spray angle allows you to play it virtually anywhere.
So we're not just talking about the famous rusters like iron. We're talking about alloys. We're talking about anything that can corrode metallically.
Yep, you've got corrosion problems with virtually every metal if you look at it.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the areas that is very useful is where you have two types of metal joining together.
Yeah.
Like copper and ferric metals, they can be put together, and normally you get electrolytic corrosion. If a little of this is put on the threads, it creates a barrier between the two and prevents that electrolytic corrosion. And it makes it much easier to remove it later on.
We've just seen the demonstration on our screens there that you just did live in the studio for us. You put boiling water over it, you then used a blowtorch on it, and yet when you want to get it off,
it can be removed instantly.
It can be removed with
a little product called Formula X, which is part of the range.
Okay, so fantastic. 515683, the Super Shield Metal Barrier Spray, £11 and 93 pence. We're giving you plenty of ideas here. Steve's given us ideas in the studio. You probably don't need any more ideas because you think to yourselves, have I got that piece of equipment at home? Have I got this? Have I got that? Barbecues. How many of us have got barbecues now? What state is your barbecue in when you get it out at Easter or whenever this rain goes away and we start to have our barbecues again in this country? It's amazing. Well over 100 of you have already jumped on the phones, and it's the sort of product that I think when you just sit back for just a few seconds and think, do you know, for $11.93, I think we need a can of that in the garage. We need a can of that in our shed. Give it a try. It's a 30-day money-back guarantee. It's an amazing product. It's the first time I've ever seen it, and I'm absolutely captivated by the uses that I can think of in my home. 515, or around outside my home, 515-683, £11 and 93 pence. It's, of course, the fantastic Super Shield. That's what we call it, the Metal Barrier Spray. Steve, thanks ever so much. Great to see you.
Thank you.
And a brilliant product. I told you we had great products in car care, and indeed we have. We started off with Rain-X, another great product. Over 200 of you called in for that, 515453. The Rain-X rain repellent glass cleaner and anti-fog kit as well, £16 and 40 pence. Just a quick question before we say goodbye to Steve. Super Shield, we just had a caller in from Liverpool. Can I use that on chrome?
Yes, you can. It's used on very bright metals. Obviously, it will make them discolour whilst they're in storage, but it can be removed perfectly well, and once you take it off, it's like it's never been there.
Superb. 515-683. Thank you, Steve.